The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Thursday, the 25th day of September 2025. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations. I'm Jamal Hartman, and we'll have a news break a bit later brought to you by People's. How's everyone feeling today? Everyone good? It is Friday, Junior. Hopefully everyone has had a fantastic week so far and a safe and productive week as well. Suzanne Ingham says it's super awesome Thursday, Friday Eve, or Friday Junior, as some say. Yes, indeed it is, Suzanne. All right, folks. Well, greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today, as we welcome political activist Ray Kai Bascome-Emery on to discuss his journey, ideas, and more. Really looking forward to it. We always speak about younger people not getting politically involved. This is a young Black gentleman who has done the opposite of what most think we're doing, and he's gotten involved and not gotten involved and jumped onto something that's already working, but taken his own path. So really looking forward to the conversation with Ray Kai this morning. The Daily Play is a name that place, so I think I'll pick out of the lot today, see if we get that. You all are pretty good with your geography. And audience, do us a favor. If you haven't already, do not forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right, let's jump into today's conversation. So the question of the morning is, what would you say directly to the governor, the minister of national security, or the commissioner of police if you were to attend this town hall? What's the one thing you want to hear from them? Well, you might be saying, well, Jamal, what town hall? What town hall are you talking about? Well, there's going to be a town hall meeting happening on Monday, the 29th of September. The town hall meeting is going to be on gun and gang violence in Bermuda. And His Excellency, the Governor, Andrew Murdoch, the Honorable Minister of National Security, Michael Weeks, and the Commissioner of the Bermuda Police Service, Darren Simons, will all be there at this meeting. And again, the question to you all is very simple. What would you say to them, these three gentlemen, if you attend this town hall? But also, do you believe town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change? Do you believe that town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change? Well, let's go through a few things. So the event itself, why does it matter? Why do you feel like a conversation like this matters? As we discussed yesterday with the Deputy Commissioner of Police, it seems so many just want, instant results, right? We want this to be a quick fix and things to happen. And some people, just believe Well, no, they're paid to do a job. But I'll tell you why this should matter to everyone. Violence is no longer isolated. And when it was, it should have mattered to others. Because again, if you don't get control of something, it will spread. But it's impacting the greater community. And even though, if I believe all the gun victims, all the murder victims have been Black, it's still impacting the greater community. Even though I believe all of the murder victims, the suspects or those who have been charged have been Black, it still impacts the greater community, families, businesses, and ultimately community trust. This is a time, in my opinion, why it matters for those who have so much to say, especially on the social media apps, to let their voice truly be heard by the governor, the commissioner of police, and the minister of national security. For it to be effective, we all must show up and we must engage like adults and come with solutions to what we deem things that are leading to this. We spoke yesterday about the root causes. This is the opportunity to have those conversations about what the root causes actually are, right? At the end of the day, as a community, we're calling for action. We're calling for better policing, prevention programs, youth mentorship, and stronger community responsibility. That, to me, is why a town hall like this matters. Now, what are some of the pros and cons of the town hall? And audience, if you're just tuning in, we're discussing that there will be a town hall meeting for gun and gang violence in Bermuda. And this town hall meeting will be held at St. Paul AME Church, the Centennial Hall, on Monday, the 29th of September, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And His Excellency, the Governor, Andrew Murdoch, the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Michael Weeks, and Commissioner of the Bermuda Police Service, Darren Simons, will be in attendance. So we're asking you this morning, what would you say directly to the Governor, the Minister of National Security, or the Commissioner if you attend this town hall? What's the one thing you'd want them to hear? And also, do you believe town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change? Do you believe they're effective? What are your thoughts? So I just shared with you why I believe it matters. I believe that we deserve, as citizens, the opportunity to engage with the governor, the minister, and the police. But there's some pros and cons to this. There's some pros and cons to this. And some of the pros, it does provide us direct access and a platform to question the leaders, right? It does provide us that. It gives government and the police a chance to show accountability. It can build trust and collaboration between public, right? Us, the public, and officials. And it's also an opportunity for grassroots voices like parents and the young people, right? And churches to be heard, right? We're always in silos. Well, it's the church. Why isn't the church doing it? Well, why aren't you doing it? Oh, why aren't the young people involved? Well, why aren't the parents involved? Or why aren't the fathers? We're always looking to why someone else isn't doing something. This is an opportunity for everyone to be in one room and to engage about the issues. Now, there are some cons and criticisms about town halls. And I know most of you will probably say it. There's a risk that this can be all talk, no action. Concerns that are often raised but not followed up. may feel like political theater instead of solutions. Like, oh, well, they can't say we didn't come out and talk to the people or listen to the people. Some community members simply, if we're honest, just don't speak out in fear. Like we spoke about fear before, like a lack of trust. They don't want to speak out in public. And solutions offered may be top down, missing grassroots perspectives. So those are some of the cons. But the larger question, I think, despite the commissioner, the governor, and the minister being there, is what role should the community itself play alongside the government and police? And is it about stricter enforcement, which everyone seems to be, sharing in the reactive responses, or tackling root causes, whether that be unemployment, housing, education, the family breakdown? How do we measure if a town hall leads to real outcomes? Back to you, audience. Questions of the morning. What would you say directly to the governor, the minister of national security, or the commissioner if you attend this town hall? What's the one thing you'd want them to hear? And also, do you believe town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change? Let's go to the audience. Quite a few people here. Derek Hendrickson says, mixed feelings on the effectiveness. I take that question a bit further. Are the attendees to the town halls, I think, he finished. Are the individuals that attend care, but how much further does it go from there? Are the right attendees there? So he's asking, are the right people coming? Well, folks, this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Keep your comments coming, but that's a valid question. And that's why I said, it's important for the youth to be there, for parents to be there, for our religious communities to be there. It's important for all of us to be there. It's on us, but you're right. The right people have to show up. And, I'm sure that the Bermuda Police Service and multiple media outlets will be sharing this. My hope is that the room is packed and that we can share our concerns with the right emotions in a respectful manner, right? Because I know this is an emotionally charged conversation, but let's ensure that the way that we conduct ourselves when we have guests on this show, that people at this town hall are able to conduct themselves in the same manner. Dr. Anthony Richardson says, does the governor think that the current control of the police by the governor is working for Bermuda? That's what he would ask. There is still this confusion about who is truly accountable for the police. While the government is responsible for the funding the police, is the arrangement truly working for Bermuda? That's a very good question. I think that's a fair question. That's an absolutely fair question, Dr. Anthony Richardson. Dr. Maria Seaman says, the meetings will give voice to the people. That's good. However, such a meeting may be only be happening to try and quiet the voices. Bermuda has been screaming for a while. Yes, that's one of the cons. Like some may feel like, oh, this is just to keep people quiet or just say we're doing something. I don't think it's that. I think it's way too. It's at a place where I don't think optics is going to do much. They will have to keep it up. So I hope you're wrong in thinking that, but I understand, Pastor Seaman, why you feel that the way you do. Suzanne Ingham says, do I think town hall meetings make a difference? I think it's important for the public to voice their concerns to those in authority. I then watch to wait and see if they really heard us. Fair enough. That's fair. That is very fair, Suzanne. What else, audience? Any other thoughts? What would you say directly to the governor, the minister, or the commissioner if you attend this town hall? And what's the one thing you'd want them to hear? But also, do you believe town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change? That's a yes or no question. Yes or no. Do you believe town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change. And if you don't know what we're talking about, again, this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. There's a town hall meeting taking place on Monday, the 29th of September at St. Paul Centennial Hall from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it'll be on gun and gang violence in Bermuda. We'll have His Excellency, the Governor, Andrew Murdoch, the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Michael Weeks, and the Commissioner of the Bermuda Police Service, Darren Simons. I think the conversation is necessary, but I think, like most of you, we want to ensure that post town hall, there's action, like there's active follow-up. We want to make sure, okay, this was discussed. This is how we're going to move forward with this or that. So I think it's more about what happens after the town hall. Dr. Anthony Richardson says, Bermuda's governor's active involvement in Bermuda's law and order matters has been hit and miss over the decades. Will this governor be active during his tenure in law and order matters? That's a very valid question. Dr. Anthony Richardson goes on to say, mixed views on the effectiveness of town hall meetings. A lot will depend on if the panel will give certain undertakings to the audience / the people of Bermuda. Fair. Kia Renee BDA does not think that town hall meetings like this actually lead to action and change. Fair enough. Fair enough. Michelle White says, I would agree that it is a national problem, but the foundation is family. How can we instill morals back into our family structure? It has been declining since the 80s, 90s, because we took the responsibility away from parents. There are some other things why the family structure is broken down. I mean, I'll share this, and it may offend, and that's okay. It's not intentionally. I know people love to say, oh, single mothers and da-da-da. I mean, I came from a single parent home, but I didn't, right? Because luckily my mother, when you come from a strong family, you're never really a single parent, right? I think we describe that as so broad. There are single parents where there's literally people who have to raise their children by themselves, where the mother has to go work 2 jobs and the children are home raising themselves, where they may not have that family support. I think we have to change our language in 2025. But family structure, a lot of things have changed, and we're not honest about them, right? There were people who came from broken homes who grew up to say, pretty much, forget that family structure crap. My father did this to my mother, or their concerns are valid. I said they grow up with not a good, perspective on family values because of what they experience. And then I know people, like I always brag about how my friends are very present fathers. All of my friends who are in my life they are present fathers, like they are, right? Whether they are married to their partners, with their partners or not, they are present. Right. And it's something I celebrate, which is why a lot of stuff's foreign to me. And I shared with the Deputy Commissioner of Police yesterday when I was coaching, all but one father used to come. Like, I'm not used to when people say the father's not showing up. That's just not my experience. Because like I said yesterday, even if my father wasn't available, my uncles were there. So I challenge when we say family structure, I challenge what that looks like. And are we brave or courageous enough to speak about some of the things like, how family structure has broken off, how it's no longer being promoted that a man and a woman get married and have children and raise them together. We don't talk about that because we're afraid of offending people, right? We're afraid that even though facts may show that that was an ideal way, some way, it's not anymore, and people should be free to do whatever. And we have to include that stuff. We have to include that stuff. But it's so easy for us to continuously sit here and say men are not showing up, when at the end of the day, that's probably always been a thing. And I'm going to explain to you why. I know there were times in my family where the men were always out working and working and working. So they were not showing up to certain things. That didn't mean they were not present. Today, when we say they're not present, they're not out working, they're out drinking, they're having fun with their friends. I think we have to be honest. I don't think we're honest. And I don't think we're honest because we all are afraid of hurting people's feelings. We're all interested in being popular in everyone's eyes. We're interested in the likes and the follows, right? And feeling people, look, all those people who like your post and agree with you in public, they don't like you. They don't like you. They just like that you've said something that aligns with what they say out loud. And the truth of the matter is, so many people who say things out loud don't even believe them. They just believe it's going to get them more validation or attention. I'll stop there, go back to the audience, then we'll go to the news break we've got coming up. But let's go back to the comments. We've got Suzanne Ingham says, thank you, Jamel, for letting me know there's a town hall meeting. Your advert is the first I've heard of it, but not my advert. I just took it from the police, sent it out to all the media. I saw it on TNN this morning. And so I just took it and did an edit this morning to show it on the show. But yeah, that's the Bermuda Police Service. They shared it this morning with all the media. Michael Daniel says, the police have already told us that the violence is a social problem. They do not have solutions. So Michael Daniels, what's the problem with that? I've had a premier reach out to me some years ago and literally say, I mean, look, I'm open to any solutions you have. I'm more likely to engage someone who's honest about not necessarily having the solution to the problem than somebody who acts like they do and don't want to listen. But also, truthfully, we have to ask ourselves what we want from the police. The police are not here to correct our social problems. They're there to enforce the law and protect us from those who are, disobeying the law. So it's not we shouldn't be relying on them for solutions for our social problems. That's not the job of the police, unless I misunderstand how things work, and that's quite possible too. Maria Siemens says, family structure matters when morals matter and are instilled. Charles H. Jeffs II says, I'm encouraged to hear that the governor will be attending this town hall. I don't recall a time when a governor has made themselves available to hear directly from the people. I might be wrong. Maria Siemens says, my father never showed up. He was there. Maria Siemens said, marriage matters is still ideal and needed. Proof is what we see going on. Michelle White says, town hall meetings give an opportunity to speak and be heard, but need to make a plan and action right there and then, even if it's only one item, plan the comeback to build upon it. Indeed. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, one of the things I would ask is, are the BPS commissioner do we still have parish constables? Sorry, that's the question. Do we still have parish constables? And then we've got Michelle White says, oh no, I don't bash dads because it's deeper than that. It's the how and the why of each individual. That's why I say family. All right, folks, thank you so much. That was your daily discussion brought to you our friends at Titan Express and Secure. We'll show them some love. Then we'll go to the news break, and we've got Ray Kai Emery, political activist, coming up after that.
The daily discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Visit TitanEXBDA.com, your leading tour and transport provider specializing in Black History tours throughout the island. And SecureBDA.com for all your property management, waste management, residential, and commercial trucking needs. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is our commitment to you.
All righty, let's go to the Daily Hour news break. And don't forget, we've got Ray Kai Emery, political activist, coming up. We'll be having a discussion about some things going on in Bermuda.
Good morning, good morning. This is your Daily Hour news break brought to you by the good people at People's Pharmacy. Wellness is about convenience too, and that's why People's offers free parking, friendly service, and a wide range of carefully selected products from skincare to vitamins, all you could ever really need under one roof. Now, here's your story this morning, highlighting a story that was released last week with a bit more added context and community update. A Change.org petition titled Urgent Call for Justice and Accountability is circulating in Bermuda after reports of an altercation at Westgate Correctional Facility on September the 18th. Now, the petition, posted by a group calling themselves Concerned Citizens of Bermuda, alleges excessive force against inmates and calls for an independent investigation. You may recall the initial story, which was first reported by TNN, which cited a reliable source. Now, according to TNN, officers conducting a routine cell search discovered a cell phone. They report the inmate attacked a principal officer and that in the process of subduing the inmate suffered serious mouth injuries and lost teeth. We have not yet seen a same-day formal government statement on the September 18th report. Since then, the online petition claims 2 inmates were assaulted and says 1 suffered a fractured jaw. The group is calling for an independent investigation, disciplinary action if warranted, immediate and ongoing medical and psychological care, policy reform on use of force, and stronger protection for inmates. We also wish to note that Change.org posts are allegations until verified. For added context into the matter, oversight of corrections did move to the Ministry of Justice in late 2024, with Attorney General Kim Wilkerson touring Westgate and later pledging improvements around staffing, officer welfare, and institutional resilience. In May of 2025, government and news outlets reported separate incidents in which corrections officers were injured by inmates. Those reports can be found on the World Gazette. Now, this context does not confirm the September 18th claims, but reiterates what the facilities, staff, and those responsible have faced recently in regards to safety pressures. At this point, advocates from the petition argue that how inmates are treated reflects community values. Recent opinion pieces and political press releases have called for better staffing and support. Back in June of this year, Shadow Minister of National Security and now newly elected OBA leader Robert King said the following: "The One Bermuda Alliance recognizes that staffing is a primary need and that we do not have sufficient candidates for the position. Bermuda cannot wait for the new uniform training school to provide staff. We must recruit trained officers from Britain using a similar approach to the Bermuda Police Service. We should also consider sending a Bermudian cohort overseas to work for a minimum of 6 months in maximum security prisons to get the necessary knowledge and experience to effectively operate a safe and results-driven facility." End quote. For now, the petition remains open online. If an official investigation is launched, timelines and outcomes will be key to watch. As TNN leads this story, we'll update if the ministry or corrections issues a statement on the September 18th report. We have also sent an email in regards to those claims to the ministry as well, and we'll update you here. Leaning into your weather this morning, it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud with a shower or 2 around this morning, and you have a high of 85 degrees. Now, back to the studio.
All right, thank you so much for that news break. Folks, days of the year. It is World Pharmacist Day, so we just want to give a big shout out to the pharmacists over at People's Pharmacy. We had Winfield Knight last week for an awesome conversation. So shout out to all the pharmacists over at People's Pharmacy representing and ensuring that the people have what they need. It's also World Dream Day. World Dream Day. I want to ask you folks, what is a dream you had as a child? What kind of dream did you have as a child that you wanted to experience as an adult? What was a dream you had? Like one dream, but also another one, it's One Hit Wonder Day. Name a one-hit wonder, like someone who came up with one song and then you never heard again. I'm gonna go first. What's the guy that sings that song? Ooh, don't worry, be happy. What's that guy name? That guy's a one-hit wonder. You know what I'm talking about. You know, Mr. Don't worry, be happy. That guy. Come on. Okay, I don't sound exactly like him, but you get what I'm saying. That guy, he's a one-hit wonder. Who else? So don't worry, be happy. Who else? I can't think of anyone else. There's got to be some other one-hit wonders out there. No, it's not Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was the comedian. He didn't sing it. Angeline Butler said Dick Gregory. But one-hit wonders, Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison. He was a one-hit wonder. Okay. Fallon said, Kathy Dell here at me. You all, let me Google, because you all not helping me. Let me see. Bobby McFerrin? That song correct? Let me see. Don't worry, be. Yeah, Bobby McFerrin, it says. Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy. That's a one-hit wonder to me. We've got The Things You Do by Gina Thompson. We've got Milli Vanilli. Well, you all know what you all did to Milli Vanilli. That was sad. Yes, Dr. Anthony Risson, Bobby. See, Charles got it too. Bobby McFerrin. But you all probably Googled like I did, because I had to Google to get the answer. Now I know that when we do the Daily Play, you all are Googling, because no one knew that answer. But that's one-hit wonder, I would say. That would be the one that comes to mind. But keep them coming, folks. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Get your questions ready. We're always talking about younger people getting into politics. Well, we have a younger person who got into politics, a young black male. And he didn't jump on the popular train. He is going his own route, unpopular opinions and perspectives, but based on his conscious ways of thinking. Stick with us. We will have Ray Kai Emery coming up after the break. In the meantime, whether you're streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter X, or Instagram, please help us beat the algorithm by giving us a love, a like, follow, share, subscribe. Just make sure everyone you know has access to these most important community conversations as possible.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Ready to take your financial game to the next level? HSBC is here to help you power up your financial fitness. Your strategy should be sharp and ready for anything, because luck won't get you to the top. Whether securing your future, growing wealth, or planning for life's next serve, HSBC's experts are here for you. From budgeting to investing, let's craft a plan as unique as your goals. Plus, get free financial planning consultations to stay on track. Learn more at hsbc.bm/financial planning. HSBC Bank Bermuda is licensed to conduct banking and investment business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Pair with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear. You can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast, so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It, freshness at your doorstep, delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Get ready for the cool Bermuda nights ahead. A CI-AC mini split AC unit from BAC Group is the perfect solution, keeping you warm this winter and cool all summer long. While supplies last, you can get a unit starting at just $913.50. Plus, receive an extra 10% off when you pay with cash or credit card at the counter. BAC Group, comfort for every season.
SCARS stands for Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, and we are a Bermuda nonprofit organization whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse and to be an advocate and a voice for children who've been sexually molested, as well as their affected family. New media like the Daily Hour is really important in partnering with organizations like SCARS. It's another platform for us for awareness. There can be no radio silence as it relates to child sexual abuse, and we need is many initiatives as we can get. We need to keep this message alive. In terms of us and the work that we do, live engagement is good because it allows the audience to ask questions, to make comments, even to provide us with encouragement and support. What I love about the live engagement when Scars is being interviewed by Jamal is just this feeling of safety, this feeling that he gets it. He cares about children. It's a connection.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Jamal Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Linda's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio areas with these most important community conversations. Don't forget to subscribe on our website, follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. We asked before we went to break, who are some one-hit wonders? Well, Derek Henderson said Snow, Informer. I think he had another hit though. I can't think of what it was, but you could be right. Everyone knew that song back in the 90s. Zena, oh my God, you gonna do Bootsy like that? She said Bootsy. Bermudians love to drink. Was he a one? Boots is gonna be starting doing a morning show prior to the Daily Hour on Hot 107.5 coming up in October. So don't hit our boy Bootsy like that. Don't do him. I'm sure he's a comedian though, so he doesn't really come. Right, we can't diss him and call him a one-hit wonder, but you all did love that song. Rosalind Famous says, as far as childhood dream was to be an Olympian, gymnast, and or ice skater. Okay, all right. Dr. Anthony Richardson also said, one-hit wonder, Baby got back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Didn't he have that one, Put Him on the Glass too? That's probably a bit rated R for this show, but just thinking. Also, Charles said, I don't think Vanilli was a one-hit wonder. They had several hits. They just didn't sing any of them. And then we've got Lydia Simmons says, Mambo number 5, Lou Bega. All right, folks. All right, well, before we, get caught up in one-hit wonders and our dreams, we've got to remember we've got a very important guest coming up. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to our very special guest for the day. He ran as an independent candidate in the 2025 general election back in February. And prior to that was the chairman of the FDM, political entity led by the Honorable Mark Bean. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Ray Kai Emery. Greetings, good sir. How goes it?
Greetings, my brother. I'm good.
Well, first off, Ray Kai, I'm gonna be real with you, man. I went back and looked. I said, this show is going on 5.5 years. Ray Kai's always been a voice among the people. And this is the first time we've had you on the show. I was actually pretty shocked.
Yeah, I facilitated different, things like
right.
The FDM, coming on or whatever, but never myself. So this is a great opportunity. It's nice to be here having this conversation.
Thank you for making time. Honestly, we definitely appreciate you making the time. But before we jump into it, for those who may not be as politically astute or interested, just give the people a bit of your background, who you are, and what you do, and what made you get politically involved.
Having a child really, pushed me into it a little bit further. I always had an interest in politics. And political ideology and just understanding how government and things work. And then, you get into it a little bit more and you get a, better understanding. And it seems like something that I'm, I really want to do. And so that was kind of what got me into politics, was just, trying to understand how things work. Right now I consult and I'm a bartender as well, night times. So right now, this is sleep time usually for me. I'm knocking about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But that's basically me right there.
Got you. So I did mention that you transitioned from party politics as a former FDM chairman to running as an independent in Paget East. What compelled you to make that shift, and what have you learned in your political journey so far?
Well, originally I was a member of a party in Jamaica called the United Independence Congress, which is similar to what when they and there's independents do now in Bermuda. So I looked at it. I spoke to a few people about it, and it didn't seem like it was viable. When we bought them to Bermuda, What they said was the only way this is going to work is if you got a demagogue like June Soon involved. And then years later, here it is. He ended up, putting this together and really kind of making it into a movement. I was never a part of whatever coalition or whatever they had going on. I was actually independent on my own. To run in Constituency 22, that was a commitment I had made while I was in charity after him. I said, might as well see it through. So I don't think that party politics is wrong, for the record. I think that the country needs an ideological rudder, right? It has to be stirred by a group of people thinking the same way. They have the same idea to move the country forward. And a bunch of independents aren't going to do that. Aren't going to be able to do that. So I still stick to the idea that party politics is probably the best way forward in the country. People are just disheartened by it. You see, politicians every day just turn the party line, and the party line might be wrong. And at the end of the day, they don't care if it's right or wrong. They just stick with the party line, and that causes some issues.
Got you. Just moving on. You've publicly said that you believe capitalism works.
Yes.
What is it about capitalism that you see as beneficial for Bermuda, and how do you respond to critiques that it can deepen inequality?
I think the people that say that don't know what they're talking about, first of all. And second of all, capitalism is man in its natural state. You have two natural laws, right? One natural law is the right to defend your life by any means necessary. The second natural law is the opportunity for you to gather the resources that you need and protect those resources as much as you can. The state was formed on those guidelines, right? Like people got together and said, we need to protect life, we need to protect our property. And that's how state was formed, the actual state. So when you look at that, that's the beginning of time. You could be an ape swinging from a tree, right? And still have those natural rights and natural laws, right, in place. So capitalism is man in its most natural format in general, just going out there and doing what you have to do, using your conscience to guide yourself. And then freedom is another big role of capitalism as well. Whereas, the government, it's a saying that says, it goes something like this. Basically, if you educate the children, right? If you can educate someone's kids, you can run the country forever, more or less, right? So we give away free education, right? I personally think that we should get rid of public school altogether, and it should be a private school. Every child deserves a private school education, right? We're spending $28,000 a year on kids getting public school when Soltis costs less, right? So what would be a better use of those funds? The parents know what's best for their children, right? So either way, when you go into getting all this free stuff through socialism or communism, all that goes with that free stuff is your freedom, right? Like Facebook, for example, right? If it's free, you're the product, right? So this is what we're dealing with when we look at socialism and communism, for example. You look at giving away your freedoms in order to get things for free, and that's not how things supposed to go. Like your grandparents didn't get nothing for free, right? And they did pretty great. And most older Bermudians could tell you, it wasn't a time where they had government paying for childcare or paying for a bunch of different things. And at the end of the day, government shouldn't have to, right? The idea that we have people that need childcare allowance in Bermuda, right, which is a socialist concept, is because the economy isn't good enough for people to afford to send their kids to nursery. And that's not something that a government should pat themselves in the back for, right? We have tons of people that are wanting now, much more. They've raised the threshold, right, from where it was, I think it was 60 grand in the household income, and now it's like 150. So the fact that people making that much money can't afford to send it. So basically, the idea is, I don't want to really talk too much on it, but capitalism is man in its natural state. It's just that simple. And
I don't think if people actually listen to everything you just said, I don't think most would disagree with a lot of it. I think the ability for people to pretty much be in charge of their destiny is what you're explaining in short about capitalism. And I've also said that people sometimes think I'm anti-charity, which is not true. I just believe in a fair and just world there would be no need for charity, and I believe that people don't need more charity; they need more opportunities, and through opportunities they'll be able to sustain themselves and grow themselves. Now there's a key part: if the laws of the land don't discriminate against their ability to do so, right?
Right, and to be fair, THCA, the THCA ban, which was imposed by the minister Michael Weeks, who has taken revenue. Sorry, the THCA law, which is talking about unjust laws that stops people from, getting opportunities. There were Black Bermudians, right? We're talking about Black people in general. Black Bermudians making a ton of money importing and selling THCA because it was legal, and then Michael Weeks has now shut that down and running on about some medical stuff. How we need to look into it, and is it safe or is it not? It's been proven safe. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. At the end of the day, it's just smoke and mirrors because he wants his mates to make the money, not everybody else. And that's the crabs in a bucket mentality that comes with it. So you're right. If the laws of the land don't provide the opportunity, you got to get damn people out.
Go ahead, because what I was trying to say, I just want to emphasize, because I think when we have these conversations, sometimes we have a tendency as people to ignore certain parts because we disagree with one part or two parts. And I just hope that people really take some of what I deem the important parts of what you're saying and utilize it to understand the point that's being made about why you believe capitalism works. And we'll probably come back to that, but I want to transition because you've also expressed concerns about liberalism in past commentary. What do you see as the main problem with liberalism in a Bermuda context, and how should the political philosophy adapt to our local challenges?
So if you look at the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Black Bermuda was strong, right? And I'm specifically speaking on Black Bermuda right now. Was strong, right? And up into the 90s, strong, right? And that was based off of a conservative capitalist mindset, right? Your grandparents didn't have anybody giving them anything. They didn't have all this free stuff coming to them, right? They had to go out and earn it, right? They had lower taxes as well. Things were cheaper because the economy was not just because the economy was doing better, but because we stuck to a system that worked, which was capitalism, right? We're not taxing people all this money. Dude is not that high. Like, we're just trying to help people get what they need to get ahead and fund the government as it needs to be funded. Government expenditure just keeps going up. But anyway, liberalism as a whole, you have classical liberalism, you have neoliberalism. I'm a classical liberalist. I believe that you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else, right? That's it, right? As long as you're not damaging property or you're damaging somebody's life or their health, fine. Do whatever it is that you want. Any privacy in him, right? Because once you take it outside of there, right, what you're doing is you're forcing people to accept, not even just accept and acknowledge your position or your stance towards your lifestyle, more or less. So I think liberalism is taking Black Bermuda away from our roots. Like you're talking about the family structure, and it's only one family structure that actually exists. That's man, woman, and child, right? And the idea that liberalisms came in and said, no, we can have two daddies and two mommies and two whatever. It's nonsense, complete nonsense.
Let's go a bit deeper on that. Let's go a bit deeper. And audience, if you have any questions for Ray Kai Emery, you can send your questions through. And those tuned in the radio, we're speaking to Ray Kai Emery, political activist. He ran as an independent candidate in Paget East in the February 2025 general election, and also a former FDM chairman. But I want to transition, since you're talking about the impact of liberalism on Black Bermuda. You've had some very unpopular conservative opinions, be it trans people suffering from mental illness, or even
mental illness
starting a turning point Bermuda based off the late Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. Speak more on both of those topics and why you feel the way you do. Why do you feel it's helpful?
Up until the 90s, late 90s, transgender, the ideology was considered gender dysmorphia or gender dysphoria, right? Where you have a mental illness, and now we're accepting this mental illness, and we're saying, look, if this is the way that you feel deep down inside, we're going to force other people to acknowledge that feeling, right? So at the end of the day, you have freedom of association, but not freedom of acknowledgement, right? Like, I don't have to acknowledge your association for whatever you do. And liberalism is saying, no, acknowledge this, call this man or woman. You see what I'm saying? And being nice or whatever is one thing, but being logical and reasonable is a complete different thing. And liberalism, neoliberalism to be exact, takes that and throws it out the window, right? It takes the reason and the logic. Man can have babies, birthing people, like bleeders, like those terms or whatever to describe women is absolutely ridiculous, right? And those are the mothers, those are the people that are going to be leading society, and they've been broken down to a costume, more or less, right? I could throw on a wig and you got to accept me as being Ray Kai or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's not the reality of life. You know what I mean? I'm still XY Crimson.
And real quickly before you touch on Charlie Kirk, but you understand, Ray Kai, that politics is about popularity. It's a popularity contest. It's not about being logical. It's not about right, wrong, or justice. It's literally popularity, telling people what they want to hear, how they feel. How do your thoughts? There you go. Speak to it. Go ahead.
That's the problem. People care more about who they like than who's right. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's one of the reasons, one of the challenges that the FDM had or still is having is that, people, you might like Mark, but everybody else you're not really too confident with or whatever. So even if they're right and they're telling you the truth and they're telling you what needs to be said, you're going to disregard it for somebody who looks good in a suit that has green on it, or red even, right? So at this point, to be 100% honest with you, me being liked, I just know that, sooner or later, the message will hit him, right? And it's with the younger generation that I have the most hope for, because you can't tell these Gen Zs, right, that a man can have a baby. They'll look at you like you're stupid, right? They'll say, that doesn't make no sense to me. I know that don't work, right? And the Zoomers and the next generation after that, they're the ones that's going to fix it and bring it back to the way that things used to be. Not my generation, but the generation directly under mine. That generation's, our generation's stuck in our ways, more or less, right? We're getting like the people that keep the PLP in power, right? The older generation who are stuck in their ways as well, right? We're getting like them, where we can't think outside the box, so we don't want to take on any new information and change our opinions, right? So yeah, that's my position with that. But we want to Turning Point, if you want to get into that.
Yes. Let's shift to Turning. Just explain what Turning Point USA is, and like not everyone's familiar with Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk. Some people just heard his name for the first time after his assassination
and called me a coon over it. So Turning Point Bermuda, right, is Turning Point USA, because we're not even at Turning Point Bermuda yet. That's coming. But Turning Point USA is an organization founded by Charlie Kirk, who was shot the other day, tragically died. And it's a conservative organization based on Christian values and pushing the idea of the family unit and the importance of the family unit, right? Which is man, woman, and child. One of my favorite songs is Buju Banton, Black Woman and Child, right? Because it's talking about multiple things. There. It's talking about, one, the family structure, but it's also talking about the Father, Jesus, Mary, and God, right? That's his idea that he's looking at, Black Woman and Child. So it's more to it than just, this is the way that we reproduce or whatever. This is a way that we lived this way for thousands of years, and it worked. And now we're allowing mental illness to sip in, and people care so much about how other people feel that at the end of the day, the truth doesn't matter, right? So with Turning Point, the idea behind that is simple. Get people back into believing in God again, right? Because we do that out the window. I was an atheist up until 2023, right? And then I had some revelations, more or less, in discussions with other people that made me realize I'm wrong, right? There is something greater and better than me up there. And if I could figure that out, then somebody else can too, right? And I'm a hard-headed person. Trust me, it takes a lot for me to, to switch on to something different. I don't really like change either. So it takes a lot for me to like switch on to something. So for me personally to say, I believe in a higher power, and that the belief in that higher power is going to make your life and everybody's life a little bit better. And I believe in the family unit as being man, woman, and child. That's it. And I believe in conservative values, small government, less taxation, the capitalist ideology that comes with conservatism. Conservatism is just what it's about, the entire Turning Point organization. So yeah, but my future goals eventually, looking at next year sometime, is to have a Turning Point Bermuda and bring those values into the country, and show that this isn't like a white nationalist thing like what they run on about. There's a Turning Point in like 12 countries right now, and a lot of them countries ain't white countries, right? Because they understand, they don't care that he might have said one or two things that have been mistaken in racial or da. At the end of the day, they agree with the message, and the message is simple: man, woman, and child. Man should not compete in women's sports, and just to focus on Christian ideology. And you don't have to be a Christian; you just have to believe in something better than yourself. You could believe in whatever you want, as long as it's greater than you, and you understand that you're just a piece of this greater picture. And that's just the way forward.
You know what, Ray Kai? I disagree with you. I don't think you're as hard-headed as you believe, and I'll tell you why. Because I often say on this show that my mind can be changed, and I have very strong opinions. But you being vulnerable and honest enough to say that, look, I was atheist up to 2023, and then you realized there was something more powerful than me. I think I hope that hits some of the audience as well, because it's letting people know how we feel today and how we feel tomorrow. Not necessarily the same when we start to engage people and we have our minds open enough to learn new things beyond what we currently believe. It takes a courageous person. Yesterday we had the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Naima Aswood, on, and courage to me to actually continue mentioning her faith, which is not the most popular faith in Bermuda, that she was Muslim. And you speaking about, the higher power and the like today. I always say I'm not religious. I don't, subscribe to any particular religion at this point in my life, but I have a lot of respect for people who do and don't do. For me, it's really about how you treat others, but I understand that so much keeps us grounded. That comes from the books that we choose to read. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question there really quickly. When was the last time you picked up your Bible and read through it?
Probably last week.
Because your mind might change, your mind might change. Yeah. When was the last time you picked up a religious text? Because
as I said yesterday, on my coffee table, I have the Ethiopian Bible, I have the Quran, the Holy Quran, the Holy Bible, and Rastafarian prayer books. So I actually, depending on how I'm feeling, pick up a book every now and then, probably weekly, bi-weekly basis. That's something that for me is internal, though, because I don't discuss it with people. Even me sharing it yesterday and today, unless you come into my space, you wouldn't know that. But I believe those books, for me as a person who I don't consider myself religious or given to any specific God per se, it keeps me grounded. I'm just going to be real with you. It does keep me grounded when you can read that. And I believe that all the books have something that can keep us grounded. I personally just have not chosen a faith as I consider myself a lifelong learner. But I appreciate all that to say that you seem to be a person who is more open than even you believe to actually go from there to here. And that's what I think, if nothing else, that I want people to take from you, because it's easy to listen to you and say, oh, it's crazy. He thinks that trans people have a mental illness and so on, and they're not listening to everything you're saying. No, I'm not saying I agree with everything you're saying, but for me, I love to digest what you're saying. I love to understand why you're saying it, where it's coming from. And then I process a bit differently. I'm not this swift. Right. So I may take days, even with my business partner, days to process things. We're like, dang, Ray Kai makes sense. Or I'll be honest with you. You know how the algorithms work on social media. Mm-hmm. You had said your comment about trans folks, and you got attacked by most of Bermuda, right? Like I saw the responses to you. And I'm
That's the thing there on Twitter, but in person, when you do a step, it's a different story.
I was
just
going
I don't really care about social media likes. I don't care about none of that.
I was just
going to say that. It's a different story.
Publicly, it's the popular thing to do, to argue against you and say this is popular. It's popular in corporate world, like we want to look good. It's all about likes. It's all about views. It's all about perception, right? But the way the algorithm works, you type something, and then I look, and it's like, dang, why are all these things saying the same thing? It's weird. It's strange. But in saying that, Ray Kai, I want to transition real quickly, and we'll come back to that stuff. I want to transition. From your perspective, how would you describe the state of Bermuda today, economically, socially, and politically? And what do you think are the most urgent issues that we must address?
All right. Well, the first thing is we walked away from God, and that's the biggest problem right there. Is we think now that we are the top of the food chain, that we are the all and end all, and that's not it, right? And we have to humble ourselves and come from a more humble perspective, and then try to look within to find the solutions, right? So for me personally, I think that the breakdown in the family structure is the biggest problem, and I'm guilty of this myself. Like I have a 10-year-old son. I'm not with his mama, but I try my best to be the best parent that I can be, right? At the end of the day, like I'm guilty. I made that mistake. I made the mistake that a lot of men have made. But at the end of the day, I encourage every single man out there, find the right woman, marry her, have kids, get your legacy out there, build a home, you know what I mean? Have something to pass on to your children and your grandchildren. And that's how you keep your family structure together. If you look at, because home ownership is really important, first of all, that's another issue that we have in the country. Not enough people are owning homes again. right? And if you don't have home, you can't put down roots, right? If you can't purchase a house, where are you from? You know, you can't say, well, you know, I grew up in this community or that community, because you were renting in that community. You could always move out somewhere else, right? So you put down roots, you purchase a house, you get married, you get, you know, you have children, and you continue that legacy. So the very first issue, I think, is, again, we walked away from God. The other issue is we break down the family structure, because who's shooting who, right? Again, it's young black men who, many of them have come from broken homes or environments that weren't conducive to raising a child, right? So as much as we can say it's not really, you know, we can't say it's not really their fault. We have to hold them accountable for what they did, because your childhood didn't make you pull that trigger, right? You did it, right? Another thing is Black Bermuda holds on to this racism idea, this fight that our grandparents fought and won. They fought and they won it already. We control the power structures in this country. We have an all-black government, all-black cabinet, except for, unless you come to Andy Silver, who says it's black or whatever, you know, then you got an all-black cabinet, right? All-black government. Most of the companies in Bermuda, many companies in Bermuda, large organizations, Bronico, for example, it's owned by a Black Bermudian man, and all the companies that fall underneath that remit, right? So we control the power structure. The Black Commissioner of Police, Black Deputy Commissioner of Police, we control the power structures of this country. And at the end of the day, we still cry racism when something doesn't go right. And at the end of the day,
but do we though? And I don't push back on that. Do we? Because the commissioner.
I saw a tweet just now where somebody said, "What's the cause of Bermuda's problems? Is it social, what's that? Social economic or racism?" Those were the two options. It wasn't a third option or a fourth option to answer and say it could be something else. It's either it's racism, white people don't like us, or socioeconomic, white people didn't like us before and it causes problems now. That's what it looks like. That's the only answers that Black Bermuda tries to put forward a lot of time. I'm not saying it's the only answers all the time, but it's one of the most popular answers to go with. Is that it's racism.
But you just said we have a Black commissioner, Black deputy commissioner, but they answer to a white governor. Right, and then the government and cabinet may be black, but let's be honest, the economy, like South Africa's, regardless of what the government looks like, the economy is run and owned by who owns the exempt companies, the banks.
I think
right?
I think that you would find that that's not the reality. I think that there's exempt companies, foreign-owned companies for the most part. You have Bermuda shareholders, and you have many shareholders are Bermudians, but the foreign-owned for the most part, that's why they're exempt companies, are tax exempt from paying overseas, right? From paying the taxes, you know, overseas, like they're in Bermuda doing it, right? Cool. So when you look at small businesses in Bermuda, majority of them are owned by us, right? Cool. You look at even some of the larger enterprises that are growing. You have Gat Security, right? Big security, one of the biggest security firms in the country, owned by a black man. Most of these security firms you see are owned by Black Bermudians, right? We have so much more power in this country than we're willing to accept or admit. You know, and then it's so easy to say racism. That's why I did that Charlie Kirk thing, and all these people are screaming, "Yo, he's a racist." You're fighting your grandparents' fight. Our fight right now is with ourselves. Black Bermuda is Black Bermuda's biggest problem.
I
don't
disagree with you in context that we Black Bermudians can be our own worst enemy and contribute to some of our problems. But I think I'm going to echo what Rashida Godwin says here is Black people don't control the economic power structure of Bermuda. It's important to remember Bermuda is still a colony of Britain and the governor signs off on everything. But I want to add to that, that you can look at certain African countries. I'm going to pick on South Africa. And the example I gave is, you know, when I've shared this story before, and I don't know if I've sent it to you, Ray Kai, but when apartheid ended and the gentleman went to find a police officer who arrested him years earlier and, you know, went to the police officer's house, and the police officer says, "Do I know you?" He says, "Yeah, you arrested me." Da-da-da. He says, "Okay, well, what are you doing here?" "Well, I just want to tell you you lied. We won." He says, "Come in, let's have a drink." And he said, "Well, what you won what?" "Oh, we're government. We control the government now." He says, "Son, we always knew we would lose government and apartheid then. That's why we own this and we own that. You don't own anything. You just have political power, and political power without economic power is no power at all." And I think that's where we may differ, because I think that's the PLP's problem, is that they believe they have this power, but the only power they seem to have is putting money into their pockets.
That's it.
And not the people of Bermuda.
I agree with you to an extent with that. But going back to your South Africa reference, what happened after that? What did the Black government in South Africa do? They went out and they took or the property from the white people as much as they could, and they're in the process of doing it now, right? So let's not act like that black government didn't lead to black South Africans getting some type of prosperity or some type of, some type of ownership. So when we talk about us reporting to a white governor, I'm against that. Not a white governor. It doesn't matter the color, skin, the person, but a foreign entity, a foreign parliament has to approve all laws that we set in place. That's not democracy. Alex Scott said it when he was the premier in Bermuda. He said, my laws being subject to a foreign parliament isn't real democracy. And I believe that 100%. We need independence. And we're afraid to make that move. Bermuda's in a crossroads right now. We can either be Jamaica, or we could be Singapore, right? It's one or the other, right? And we're having the Jamaica issues. We're having the brain drain. The intelligent people are leaving the country because they don't see a future here, right? They see it better for them overseas. And even somebody not so intelligent wants to leave. But what that does is we have a negative birth rate now, right? We have less Bermudians being born and Bermudians being dying. So how do we replace the Bermudians? We have to replace them with foreign workers. And what does that do for the tax base? Is great, because now we got more people paying into taxes. The economy gets a little bit better because we have a bigger population. Them things, that all works out. But what does it do for the cultural side of the country? Right? What does it do for who we are as Bermudians? Right? So for me personally, what in that crossroad, we could go. We're doing great with with insurance and different things like that. And in the commercial sector, we're doing pretty decent. So we could just make that move and be Singapore, right? Get rid of these antiquated laws that say that we got to have the buildings in town so it's smaller than the cathedral and all that nonsense. Let's get some high rise. Let's get some real money coming into the country and see what happens. Because right now, what Jamaica? We're on our way to be in Jamaica. Listen, there's been countless murders, and only one of them's been gun murders, and only one of them's been committed by a white man. Right? The rest of them have all been committed by black Bermudians. We're killing each other, and we're proud to say that.
Let's talk about gang culture and violence, because they've become pressing issues, right? What do you believe are the root causes of gang culture in Bermuda, and what concrete steps would you propose to dismantle or prevent it?
So gang culture and gang violence, two different things altogether, right? The gang culture, a lot of times the gang culture is just guys out there making, you had crews back in the day, this crew, that crew, blah, blah, blah. Guys sat around, might have sold a little bit of weed, might have made them money doing, selling dope or whatever they were selling. But that was gang culture. That's how they grew up. They hung out around each other. They were friends, and they made money doing illegal things or whatever. That's gang culture. Gang violence, no, it ain't no money in that. There's no money in that, right? You got guys doing life in Westgate for $5,000. Somebody said, "Here's $5,000. Go put a hole in this guy," and they went and did it. Can you imagine that, living your life up Westgate because you took $5,000 to kill somebody? So anyway, at the end of the day, there's no money in gang violence. There's money in gang culture, right? And then it's a question I always ask, and I've been meaning to elaborate on this further, but what comes first, culture or capital? Because what we have a tendency to do is say, well, the capitalists, they pushed all this money into gang music and to just, this black degeneracy, this type of terrible music and this terrible culture. But the culture existed before the capital existed to back the culture. Right. So if we had a different culture, if our culture was, because money talks, money, if you're not getting bought, if nobody was buying King Von's music, there wouldn't be a King Von, right? If nobody was buying Cardi B, shaking whatever, we wouldn't, that culture, it wouldn't exist. The money wouldn't be there to back it because it isn't a return on investment. Right? A lot of people just think, oh, well, rich people are evil. They'll just stop the black man from getting ahead by throwing all this, bad music and bad food and bad this and bad that into the black community. And to an extent, you have people that generally think to themselves, let's hold these people back. But for the most part, if the culture don't exist, the capital won't be sent in to back it. And the culture existed, gang culture existed long before the capital that was backing it and turned it into this, this O-block situation for lack of a better word.
Let's go to the audience. We've got quite a few. We've got Amari Simon says, the more money comes in, the wider the gap comes. Disparity brings desperation. Thoughts?
I disagree. Obviously, one thing I could agree on, more money, more problems, right? Biggie said it best. It made sense, right? But the reality is even if it makes the haves, or what we consider the haves, or we consider the elites to have more, as long as we're catching up, because you could be one of them one day yourself, right? You have so many self-made billionaires in this world, right, that have literally got it out the mud, right? You got Tyler Perry, terrible movies, great players, homeless man at one point on his way to being a billionaire, right? You have so many people that have got it out the model, not earn more money, more problems, but it isn't gonna be this. It's not as evil as we think it is, right? If the wealth gap increases, as long as the poor becoming wealthy, I don't care. Let the rich get richer. If the poor get rich as well, I'm fine with that. And equality, another thing is that equality is a myth, right? Because we aren't equal. Nobody's equal. No, not one, but all different and separate entities. Every single person. We're all individuals. Nobody's equal, right? So the idea that, well, this person's got more than this other person that I have, why they got that? What makes them better than me? Well, they would doubt a hand of cards just like you would doubt, and they played their cards differently, or the way that they played them, and it helped them to get what they have.
I don't actually think that's an unpopular opinion as it was when I first said it many years ago. That I've never, even when we were fighting to end conscription, I'm like, I don't want equality. And I used to tell a sister, like, unlike our fight, we don't want to be included. You know what I'm saying? We're fighting to be excluded. And I shared that. I shared that because I don't think, that to me is American liberalism. We got it confused. Is our fight should have never been about equality. It should have been about equity. The same opportunities to become what you just explained,
right,
as the others. I always say, I don't want anything from a government. I just want the opportunity to go out there and do what I'm able to do based on the skills that I have, right? To give me the best opportunity to provide for myself and my family. So I don't disagree with you on that. And I hope that people, again, don't miss the point is, while we're over here fighting for equality, we're missing the whole point should be equity. And there is a difference. But I want to go back to the audience because Lingovox Translations asks, are there any books that align with your political philosophy that you could recommend to us?
All right. Anything written by Thomas Sowell. Ayn Rand, for example. Ayn Rand was a Russian woman that lived in communist Russia. She moved to America and she spoke out against communism over and over and over again. She has the Ayn Rand Institute. Check her out. Thomas Sowell is a black capitalist like myself. One of the most brilliant thinkers in capitalist thought and theory is Thomas Sowell. He is the man. Literally, start with Thomas Sowell. Get some Ludwig von Mises, because that's Austrian economics, which is the only real economics, right? It's Austrian economics, which is based on capitalism. Read some Ludwig von Mises. They have the Von Mises Institute, for example, on YouTube. You can watch a lot of different things on there. Regarding capitalist ideology and Austrian economics. But Thomas Sowell is, to me, the easiest to digest capitalist out there, because one, he looks like us, so we're not saying, oh, this white man saying this and the other, and two, he breaks it down into little pieces and gives it to you in a way that's easy for you to digest. So if I was anybody trying to learn more about capitalism or classical liberalism, I would say Thomas Sowell right away. That's where it starts, right there. And you could, venture off and find other thought leaders that that you agree with more or less.
Most, and I'll share this, most successful Black business people who I know actually always have been recommending Uncle Tom, as we call him, Thomas Sowell, Sowell, for years. I mean, one of my close friends, he is a very conservative capitalist, and he's been reading him for years as well. But if you've never heard of him, folks, it's Thomas, Thomas, and last name is Sowell. Let's go back to the audience. Rashida Godwin said, what we are experiencing in Bermuda is internalized racism amongst Blacks. What would you say to that?
I'm not going to say anything. I disagree with the idea of racism in Bermuda as being as big of an issue as we try to make it. Even if you say it's internalized, Black people, I'm going to be honest, I have a struggle to understand what internalized racism actually is. But I think it's that we have issues just with the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we want to live our lives, the communities that we want to raise aren't good communities anymore. Like back in the day, right? Look, when I went to Paget Primary, right? I used to walk in from Ordred, right? And my dad used to tell me, look, walk cross lines, because you guys out there know me. They'll make sure you get here, that you're safe every time. Because you had, creeps and weirdos all around, things were a little bit different back then. But you could count on the guys sitting on the wall to have your child's back and have a better idea of what the safety, what you have to do to be safe out there, right? Now, you can't count on them guys that are out there doing whatever. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about the future. They don't care about. We're building toxic communities. And again, it starts with the breakdown of the family structure. Man, woman, and child. It has to continue to be man, woman, and child. It can't be anything else.
All right. And you're right. Ray Kai, I've said that on this show a number of times, that back in the day, like, it was a different kind of person in the street. You've said a lot of stuff that's been said, but I'm glad you're emphasizing it, especially in the light of, the difference between gang culture and gang violence. I think that's important as well. Gang culture was very different from gang violence back in the day. Gang culture, people looked out for their crews in their neighborhoods. It's gang violence, in gang culture, people had money. Gang violence, they don't. And so I'm glad that you emphasized and those points in particular. Rashida Godwin's also saying, Rakai, listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. He speaks about power economics. Have you read any Dr. Claude Anderson?
I might have, maybe watched some videos or documentary where he's spoken, where they've quoted him once or twice, but no, I don't think I've actually read his works by itself.
So him, Power of Economics, him, and you've got Dr. Boyce Watkins. It's weird, Ray Kai, because most of these gentlemen are very conservative in their approach towards capitalism and economics, and speak about building Black wealth. They're very similar to Dr. Thomas Sowell and the like, but these are not the people who are promoted. These are not the people who are put out there. The only Black people that are usually put out there, you mentioned Tyler Perry, are the entertainers, right? The ball players, the athletes. We don't speak about the Black wealth. Like, if we ask who are the 10 richest Black people in the world, we probably all wouldn't be able to tell them, but we can tell you who the top 3, and being what's the guy that owns Amazon and Elon and
right, all of them.
Yeah, like, we'd be able to speak to them, and we wouldn't even understand how they receive their wealth. But I appreciate this conversation for so many reasons. But Rick, how do we? Well, I'll go to Rosalind's pretty much asking it. Lingovox translation says, how do we prevent liberalism from evolving into neoliberalism, which has been proven to be harmful to many societies? I'm going to say harmful to Black communities.
Harmful to Black, yes. Just got to try to be reasonable at all times. Keep reason in place. Get rid of emotion. Don't get rid of emotion, because emotion is definitely something that you can use when you need to use it. But for the most part, let's try to set it aside and stay reasonable, right? And not think that, not try to push it too far. Classical liberalism is again a part of capitalism. A man in his natural state. This neoliberalism stuff is detrimental, and the PLP are neoliberalists, right? Every last one of them are neoliberalists, right? Not every, I wouldn't say every last one, but as a party, the neoliberals, right? As almost like how they decided to operate. Well, not even, sorry, this PLP are neoliberals. David Bright and his group are neoliberals. And you see that the detriment that's having on Bermuda as it is, while they're out enriching themselves, got Black men killing people's mamas, right? So at the end of the day, no, the neoliberal, I don't know how we're going to prevent it. I don't have an answer to that, but we just have to stay reasonable and logical.
All right. Dr. Anthony Richardson, he says, too often when Black Bermudians ventured into politics, they've often suffered financially due to not having first put in place a solid financial base nest egg. Keep in mind, politics generally doesn't pay. Is this something that you've taken into account as you venture into Bermuda politics?
Yeah, so when I became the chairman of the FDM, that's the first thing Mark being said. He said, the reason why Bermuda politics is the way it is now is because these men need government to eat. They can't do it on their own. They can't get it out the mud, right? So the only way that you'll be a successful politician is if you have your own, you got everything, because you don't need the paycheck. You don't need the money. You're not trying to be the minister of this, that, and the other, and have all these portfolios so you have a big dumb check, or so that you become a chair of some boards but are paying you this large stipend every month or something. You don't need that. You have to have your own. Once you got your own stuff and you're fine financially, moving into politics is a lot easier. I'm not saying I'm in the best financial situation at all. I'd like to be in a better position. I think everybody would like to be in a better position. However, I think that with the income streams that I have coming in, I should be okay, to continue with politics for the most part. And it doesn't pay. I mean, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on the FDM and I was a chair out of my own pocket, right? So, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't pay. It doesn't. And sometimes I think about it, I had one of my closest friends tell me once, he said, why are you wasting your time with this FDM stuff? that ain't paying you, that ain't making you no money. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, you know what? I feel like it's the right thing to do, so I'm gonna do it anyway. And me and that friend don't really speak anymore because of that decision that I made to say, well, let me pursue politics, because he thinks that I'm selling myself short. I could do much better than sit up there and get involved in the political arena and try to be a member of parliament and try to change the direction of my country. I could just do something else. I could do something better for me. And it is what it is. I agree, definitely agree that you have to be financially stable to do it.
Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, Brother Ray Kai, how do we deal with a society who wants all the benefits of capitalism but still wants the benefits of socialism?
Well, we have to get rid of them socialist benefits. First of all, like I said, every child deserves a private education. Get that public school stuff out of here, right? Because your parents and grandparents paid to go to school. Chances are, right? We're just given this public education system or whatever. So we need to get rid of the benefits first, right? Lower taxes, reduce duty drastically, right? So the cost of living goes down. If it's cheaper to do business in there, the products and the things that we have to spend money on every day, especially essential goods, the price goes down, right? So we have to get rid of them and then see people surviving without those benefits, without the child care allowance, right? There's a regulatory authority that controls the nurseries in Bermuda, and they are the ones that say, hey, it's 4-to-1 in a classroom, 4 children to one teacher. So if you got a classroom of 12 people, you're paying 3 salaries. 3 salaries. That's why the price is through the roof, because the government said, yo, we don't trust that you know what you're doing, and we're going to tell you what to do instead. And that's, so anyway, once we start removing some of those benefits and we start lower taxation, like I was saying the other day, we should get rid of land tax for people that want private roads, but the private roads need to be prepaid, because we're going to pay government to do that. No, get a private company to do it, but these people need to recoup their money somewhere.
I don't think I'm conservative or I don't subscribe to either, but I do agree with policies from each. I do agree with lower taxation. I remember when it was being talked about that President Trump was about eliminating federal taxes in the U.S. I was all for it. I'm like, he would have my vote. But I think Americans in particular are overtaxed. So I don't agree. I don't disagree with you as far as taxes. We have to head out, but I'll give you a couple more questions from the audience real quickly, if you can answer them in the most concise way. We've got Rashida Godwin saying, she's asking, is the best way forward, is the way forward blacks to focus on building their own systems of determination, businesses, etc., then help build culture in their communities?
No. I'm sorry. I agree with that. It's something that looks like we're trying it now in Bermuda, where you have a lot of black businesses. For example, one of my favorite companies right now is Carry Genetics, Dr. Karika Weldon, and she's not afraid to invest back in the community or whatever. And that's a black business, started from nothing, made her way up to, where she's celebrated throughout the Caribbean, right? And she's someone that's willing to put money back into the community. And I think that that's actually 100% the way that we should go. We should get ourselves up to a position where finances isn't as difficult as it may seem. It's not going to be such a hurdle. And then we go and say, all right, let's fix the communities now and get this going. You can do it simultaneously, but it's probably easy to do it when you got the money.
All right. One last question from the audience. We have Derek Hendrickson asking, is politics the only / best way to make that difference you speak of?
No, it isn't. The best way to make a difference, it starts with you yourself as a person. You have to live your truth and your conscience, right? And, as long as you are trying to be a better person every day and you're trying to do better for the community that you're in, or just the people around you, it could be 3 people that you come in contact with that you speak to politely every day. Like, as long as it starts with you, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world and in your community. So I just think, everybody has a role to play as individuals when it comes to that.
Ray Kai, there are people who are going to be split about some of the things you said this morning, which is expected, right? Who wants to go a place where everyone agrees with everything I say or so on? But how do we separate perspectives and opinions versus inciting hate? Because I feel like we live in a time where some people feel like if you disagree with something they feel strongly about, you're promoting or inciting hate against who they are or what they believe.
Yeah, that's because people aren't ready to acknowledge and accept truth. That's the problem. Truth is going. Truth is whatever you say it is now. Like again, a man can have a baby, but you'd see it in medical schools where they're like, this is a trans woman who's a trans whatever, but it could have a baby. And that's not the truth of the matter. It's still XY chromosome. You're not a woman, right? You can't produce a child, right? So either way, right? It just comes down to everybody being honest, just being honest with yourself. If you can see that and a lot of the people that hold on to some of these ideologies, right, know that it's destructive to the community, but it feels good for them, so they don't care how the community makes out or whatever. It's if it feels good to me, it's good for me, and that's what that matters. That's a terrible way to look at it, right? But we have to be one, especially Black community, willing to accept criticism and accountability. Somebody saying that Black people or Black people's biggest problem is not inciting hate, it's not making people hate anybody, it's not doing anything like that. But me saying that, someone's gonna say, oh, he's an Uncle Tom, he hates Black people, yada yada yada. The white man did this, the white man did that. I don't care what you think. At the end of the day, when I'm only doorstep, the people that I speak to, because I don't just speak to Black Bermudians, I speak to all Bermudians, right, agree with my stance and my position. So social media can say whatever it likes. Like the only people that talk about people inciting hate are people on Twitter and Facebook. When you go on a doorstep and you talk to a real Bermudian, a real person, you say, hey, what do you think about this? Like the day that I'm getting chewed up about saying rest in peace Charlie Kirk, I got in a taxi getting into town. I'm talking to a woman, the taxi driver, and she was talking about they killed Charlie Kirk, a Black Bermudian woman, and she supported and agreed with his ideology as well, right? And what I realized is the older Bermudians, right, are way better at handling criticism and taking accountability than the younger Bermudians are.
So
right? We don't like that. We struggle with.
I don't want to generalize, but I will have to agree with you based on my own experiences, Ray Kai, that it's not even that younger Bermudians don't seem to handle criticism. They tune you out. They don't want to listen to things that disagree with what they believe or whatever the truth is. Again, not generalizing, but that's some of them that I've come across. But then there are others who are very open because they actually, and I say this respectfully, they come from the family structure that we say is no longer existent. Because we gotta run, we gotta go, but always welcome to have you on whenever. Thank you so much for making the time to come have this conversation. Again, for me, it's not about agreement, it's about listening, it's about engaging, and through discussions, even through disagreement, we all may get closer to the solutions that we seek for a better Bermuda individually and collectively. So thank you, brother.
Right.
Appreciate you, and I'll definitely be in touch.
No problem. Thanks a lot. It's been great.
All righty. Ray Kai Bascome-Emery, folks, if you appreciated the discussion this morning, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got a daily play, and then we'll wrap it up and send you on to enjoy your Thursday.
Considering the increasing challenges faced by financial institutions, the need for insurance protection is a critical component of the risk management framework. At Friesenbrook, our priority is to safeguard your assets with the most optimal, cost-effective risk management cover to help protect your business, whether it be cyber, directors and officer liability, professional indemnity, or property insurance. Call us on 296-3600 to learn more about our full suite of competitive corporate insurance products. At Friesenbrook, we provide insurance you can count on.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC, Bermuda business starts here.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazok Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to Ray Kai Emery for stopping by for what we deem a very important community conversation. Folks, if you appreciated this morning's discussion and conversation, please, whatever platform you're streaming on, Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. All right, folks. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medicals, Linda's, People's Pharmacy, HSBC Bermuda, for ensuring we can pump the radio area's own Hot 107.5 most important community conversations. It is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, it's a name that plays today, folks. All right, Here it is. Name that place. In which country is Mecca the holiest meeting site in Islam? All right, Dr. Anthony Richardson, you got it. Saudi Arabia, Mark Arthur C. Phillips, indeed, Saudi Arabia. All right, folks, let's wrap it up. As far as the discussion this morning regarding the Bermuda Police Service, I am encouraged that they are having a town hall meeting, and I hope that there's standing room only, and that we can have a very important community conversation where that leads to proactiveness and a strategy and action that prevents further tragedy in our community. As far as the conversation with Ray Kai, I definitely appreciate Ray Kai. I do. He's one of the few people who's not on social media for likes and follows and views and to make people feel good. He's on there to share what he believes is his truth and to get Bermuda and Bermudians closer to experience the success that they all desire. So appreciate him making time, sharing his perspectives, and look forward to engaging with him more about how he believes he can help create a better Bermuda going forward. Daily inspiration, I'll just leave you with this. And comes out of what Ray Kai said, and I've said it on the show before. As a community, we probably need to focus more on the well-being of our fellow people over the feelings of our fellow people. And that's a quote that I got from watching Country Vein, where he said he was accused of not caring about people's feelings. And he said, "You're right. I don't care about people's feelings, but I do care about their well-being." It's a difference. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace.